We're waiting on a few of the counties to come back in. Florida will tell a great deal of the story, and Ohio could, in fact, close the story. We'll be here all night long until we get a victory speech and a concession speech from either or both of those gentlemen. Let me introduce you to our panel, who will also be with us all of this evening. We're very glad to have them here for analysis. First, let me introduce you to Pastor Jamal Bryant of Baltimore's Empowerment Temple. He joins us, greatly appreciated. Next to Pastor Bryant is Ebony Magazine Editor-in-Chief Amy Barnett. Amy, so glad to have you with us. Great to see you as always. And Republican strategist Lenny McAllister joins us. Lenny, thank you so much. And you will be with us a great deal of the evening. Greatly appreciate that you are here. We should also note that we will be watching the strategy of what is left politically and how it plays itself out. And we're going to walk our way over here and talk with the gentleman who's going to be with us in relation to the rest of the evening also. And we are so very happy to have you with us. We should introduce Columbia University Political Science Professor Dorian Warren. Professor, good to have you.
Thank you, Ed.
We were just talking about the importance at this point of two states. And we cannot call anything early. We don't want to discourage those from the West, though at 11 o'clock, and we're about an hour away, all of the polls will be closed. But at this point, it's fair to say, barring any kind of major upset in the West, if this president takes Florida and Ohio, it's pretty much a wrap.
It's pretty much a wrap, and another way to think of it is Mitt Romney has no more routes to getting to 270 if President Obama does win Florida and Ohio. And right now in Florida, about 80, as you mentioned, about 87% of the vote is in. The president has about a 45,000 vote lead, and there's still some key counties that need to be counted, including Miami-Dade County, which we suspect will go overwhelmingly for the president.
And we should note their large minority contingent of Latinos and African Americans.
That's right. And the same in Ohio. We're watching South Central Ohio, which is an area where the president did very well in 2008. And right now he's doing even better than he did in 2008. So he has a small lead there, about a 2 percentage point lead in Ohio, although only about 58% of the vote has been counted there.
So what happens when you look at a situation where this president was in need of a large, quite frankly, minority turnout, whether or not the camps were ready to say it? And I will note that the Obama organization is one that believes in their own machine. They don't really look at polling when it comes to data in terms of those people getting out. They don't listen to the news media. They have this down to a science, and they felt reasonably comfortable that minorities were going to turn out, and it seems as though we are, in fact, seeing that today.
I think we're seeing that, and let's make no mistake. I think there's a feeling that voters this time around were not as enthusiastic as in 2008. However, I think one of the narratives we'll hear in the coming days is how the GOP's voter suppression efforts backfired, and in fact probably ended up mobilizing more African American and Latino voters than otherwise would have turned out. So I think there's this sense that for especially black communities, the vote is so important that we're seeing numbers. We might break the 2008 numbers in terms of black turnout and Latino turnout.
Let me turn our attention now to a gentleman who will join us via remote from Chicago, Illinois, who is a very familiar face to those of us who tend to watch BET at this time, and that's pollster Cornell Belcher. Cornell, give me a sense of what you have been seeing and hearing by means of your group and your organization who keeps watch on this in terms of African American and minority turnout today.
No, I think you're going to see that the minority and the young youth turnout is a real surprise of the cycle. I mean, Republicans have been hammering for the last month or so how they had the energy and excitement on their side, and how, quite frankly, minorities weren't going to turn out for the president nor young people. And what we're seeing in Florida and North Carolina, and particularly in Cuyahoga County, where Cleveland is, you're seeing actually numbers that exceed 2008. Which is just a phenomenal accomplishment. But we put the resources there, we put the ground teams there, and also look at the messaging that we put there early. We laid out the case for the president and asked the African American minority community to have the president's back. And tonight, it looks like they're having the president's back.
Cornell, we should note in full disclosure that you have worked for this administration in the past and done work for them, and oftentimes are
are seen, rightly so or not, as a Democratic operative, are words that are often used in cable news. But give me a sense of any surprises as relates to what you have seen today.
I think it's really surprising that a state like North Carolina, where Romney said, they had this one and they were not going to worry about it, largely on the back of this enormous turnout, an enormous grassroots effort there in North Carolina. And again, African Americans votes coming out strong again for the president. That state, which Romney said they had wrapped up, is a state that's too close to call. So we're making inroads in all these traditional red states. And Florida, quite frankly, another state that the Romney folks felt rather comfortable by, a large minority turnout there. And look, Florida is sort of encapsulates the changing that's happening in America. You're not going to be able to compete and be president of the United States if you can't compete for minority votes, particularly Hispanic voters.
Let me turn our attention to Jamal Bryant. Pastor, let me ask you in relation to what you have been seeing on the ground in Baltimore, and certainly the want to get minorities out across the country. I know there's a pipeline of ministers who talk weekly and daily. Give me a sense of what you've been hearing about today.
There's absolutely no doubt that the black church stepped up to the plate, and tremendous commendation is due to the NAACP. They registered almost 400,000 new people to vote, and Pennsylvania, by and large, was able to be won by the president because of the African-American turnout. And you're going to see that again in Ohio and in the parts of Florida where ordinarily Republicans would have been able to take it, but because churches have been on the ground, pastors have been on the front line, and our civil rights organizations are stepping up to the plate, you might see a miracle happen tonight.
Let me turn our attention now to Tara Wall, who joins us from Boston. Tara has been on the forefront of gaining African-American and minority votes for the Mitt Romney campaign. She's an advisor for Romney for America. Thanks. She joins us from Boston. Tara, for joining us. What's the feeling there right now?
Well, we certainly know we came into this with a lot of momentum. That momentum continues. I think there's still a lot of excitement and enthusiasm as we watch the numbers come in. As you mentioned, there's still quite a few states out, and they could make it or break it for us, and we believe it's going to break our way. The internal polling, in fact, that we've seen is actually pretty positive in our way, and it's doing better than we've polled internally. So I think particularly one of the states you mentioned is Ohio. In Ohio, we've seen strong GOP turnout in some of the GOP counties, greater than expected, and lower Democratic turnout in some of those counties than I think the Obama campaign expected. And obviously the fact that they had to fly to Cleveland today with VP Joe Biden shows you that they had some concerns there in Ohio. And so we just believe it's going to break our way. The same goes for Florida. I think we said it's going to be a knife fight in the phone booth from the very beginning, and that's exactly what it's turning out to be.
Cautiously optimistic on both sides, I would think, is fair, a fair term to you, Tara. But one of the questions that I have for you right now is, do you see a way for your candidate without Florida to 270?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I believe, again, we are very optimistic, and I believe that we will have a win tonight. We are going to be victorious. Again, I think particularly also when you look at some of the numbers that are coming out from folks talking about what matters to them, when you hear them polled, 60%, overwhelming majority of those being polled talk about the economy and who they see is best to lead the economy. Overwhelmingly, that's the number one issue. We know that. And in fact, I heard you talk a little bit about the numbers of minorities. Of course, we know a majority of black Americans are voting for President Obama, but those numbers actually have come down. If to look at just some of the recent polling I saw on another network, he doesn't have the support. He doesn't have that same level of support that he once had. And the same goes with the youth vote. Those youth numbers are down so far significantly. It's given Democrats some concern and pause. So again, I think that we are still in the driver's seat here, and we have great opportunity this evening.
Let me ask you one other thing before I let you go, and certainly those numbers are down, but one wouldn't expect them to be as high as they were with the historic election of 2008. But win or lose, doesn't the Republican Party have to, at this point, particularly if this election becomes as razor thin as one may assume, find a way to broaden and widen the diversity scale of what you see as the traditional Republican voter?
Well, I think that, the party itself has become more diverse over years, particularly with candidates that are running, and particularly with the voices that you are seeing come out to the party that are growing through the ranks. Of course, the party, both parties, I think, should continue to advocate and do more to continue to be diverse and inclusive, whether it's, Democrats including conservative Democrats and moderate black Republicans, and the Republican Party continue to be inclusive and reach across the aisle as it's done with embracing black Democrats, Hispanic Democrats, moderates, and others. I think that's healthy for parties. I think that those platforms, those solid issues remain the same, and people are drawn to the parties for different reasons. But absolutely, I like to personally see diversity within the party. Absolutely.
Well, always good to talk to you. You're always a friend to this show and always come with us. We greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Ed. I appreciate it.
All right. We'll take a break here. We'll come back and talk with our panel, get a bit more in terms of the black vote, how it turned out. It helped keep Pennsylvania in this president's corner. We're going to take a quick break here. When we go, we're going to show you the address that both of these men are fighting for. Back in a minute.